Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm joined by a Newcastle United fan as we're looking ahead to Saturday's game. Kendall, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really, really good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I would be lying if I said I was looking forward to this weekend's game. I'm not. I'm quite worried, but it is what it is. We'll see what it brings.
I think West Ham fans will be saying the same thing as you, so it's not exclusive to Newcastle fans. But anyway, let's start with your club. Let's get a little bit of context first of all. Before the season started, were you expecting a relegation battle?
Yes. Categorically, I was expecting a relegation battle. It's all that we've pretty much known for the last few years. Obviously, championship aside. So, yeah, I was expecting it. Maybe not as deeply as we ended up being involved. I thought it would be there and thereabouts, but we're never, we haven't been bottom of the table for a long time. For that lengthy amount of time either. So yeah, maybe not as I say, as deeply as we were dragged into it, but I was definitely expecting something along those lines either way.
Anyway, the takeover finally happened and they kicked out Steve Bruce eventually. Eddie Howe came in. What did you make? I can see the smile. Steve Bruce getting dismissed.
I can't help it,
honestly. But the appointment of Eddie Howe, were you happy with that appointment?
Initially, I would say it was more underwhelming because we obviously were pretty much a day away from getting Unai Emery, who I rate quite highly as a manager, and obviously that fell through later on. So yeah, I was maybe a little bit underwhelmed, but honestly, he's completely made me eat my words. He's changed so many players that we already had. So for everyone saying, you're buying your way out of relegation, actually the players that have, aside from Trippier, the players that have improved the most are players that we already had and have been there a few years. So for me, yeah, he's a great appointment. The appointment is only 2.5 years. So depending on where we're going to be, this time next year, he might not even be here that long. But yeah, at the moment, I think he's doing a really, really good job. And for once, there actually is a little bit of hope surrounding the club, which is something we've not had for a long time. So yeah, I'm happy with it.
Give us a couple of players that he has improved. I think you have to assume that most of these viewers haven't seen much of Newcastle United. So give us a couple of players that you've been impressed with.
So immediately, Joelinton. Absolutely immediately. He has now found his role in midfield, which I've been saying for at least a year and a half that I think he's a centre midfielder. I've said it because just his hold-up play, his first touch when he chests it down, he needs a little bit of time. He was never a striker. He was never a goal scorer for us anyway, despite the fact he was bought as a number 9. So yeah, he is literally his first name on the team sheet for me at the moment. He's been really, really good in midfield. So absolutely Joelinton. Ryan Fraser is another one who people are probably aware that has had a lengthy relationship with Eddie Howe in terms of at Bournemouth. So Eddie Howe knows him quite well. He was kind of cast aside under Steve Bruce, wasn't getting game time, was injured quite a lot of the time, but he's had an absolute resurgence under Eddie Howe. Manquillo is another one who, again, wasn't a regular starter for us. So for him to come back in and actually us be quite upset that he's injured for the next 2 weeks says a lot. So do you know what? The list is actually endless at this point. Pretty much everyone's improved. So it's really nice to see.
I think that says as much about Steve Bruce as it does about Eddie Howe, though. I think
exactly.
says a bit about him. The January transfer window, so obviously you made the headlines. Everyone's expecting Newcastle to do big business. You did do some big business. I was expecting you to do 1 or 2 signings more, if I'm honest with you. But were you happy with who you brought in?
Over the moon. I agree with you. I thought there would at least be another attacker. That's what I assumed. And if deadline day is to be believed on, the media, we were in for a Lingard and Hugo Ekitike as well. None of which happened, obviously. So, yeah, really happy with the window. Immediately getting Kieran Trippier on second day of the window for me was a statement of intent from that point onwards. A lot of people would have probably still at this point aren't too excited over the signing of Chris Wood, but I understand why. It was a desperation need at that point, and he had a release clause, and it weakened our relegation rivals at the time. So I do get the signing. I think he's fine. He offers us an aerial presence up front that we don't have, previously before him. So for me, that was okay. Matt Targett is going to be a shrewd signing. I think he had incredible first game for us against Everton. Really, really good. So then obviously Bruno came in after that, and Dan Burn as well. So yeah, I think the window went really, really well, and we have strengthened positions that have needed strengthening for about 3 or 4 years. We've not had a centre midfielder like Bruno Guimaraes for, in fact, I can't even remember the last one, maybe Cabaye, like all that time ago. So yeah, over the moon with January, and hopefully that is just, you know, a statement of what's to come in the summer if we stay up.
Well, that's the next question. That's the big question. Last question about Newcastle United. Will you stay up?
Yes, I think so now. That's not me being 100% confident, because I'm not. I'm maybe 10% confident that we stay up because it's typical Newcastle United. But I just have more belief now than I did. I was quite guaranteed before Christmas that we were going down. But I have a little bit more hope now. We are 4 points clear of relegation now. So we've still got 1 game in hand. So yeah, I think I'm a little bit more confident about staying up now, definitely.
Right, we're going to move on to West Ham. Before we do, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on Kendall here. She does a lot of stuff regarding football and Premier League in general as well. So we're going to put a link to her Twitter in the description below if you want to go give her a follow on there and keep up to date with everything she's doing across various different social media platforms. But let's talk about West Ham then. What's your thoughts on West Ham?
I think that you're coached really, really well. I think you are going under the radar, which is a good thing at this point where you are on the table, because the pressure is not, you might not feel this way, but the pressure's not necessarily with you guys about at least getting top 6. It's, you know, the pressure's on everyone else, like Tottenham, like Arsenal, things like that. So you're just sailing on by, and that's a good thing for you at the moment. I think you've got some really underrated players in there. I'm going to mention Jared Bowen, who I think is absolutely incredible and was a whisker away from joining us, which I'm quite upset about at the time. I was upset at the time. I'm even more upset about it now. But Steve Bruce would have probably had him played as like centre back anyway, so probably a good thing. But yeah, I think you're decent to watch, but at times a little bit frustrating to watch, which you probably do agree with. But yeah, I think you're doing really, really, really well. And it's not a fluke because it's 2 seasons in a row now. So it's not a fluke. I think you're doing really, really good. Any
other players that impress you bar Jared Bowen?
There's a few. Jared Bowen obviously is being the one. He's been the one. Michail Antonio's slightly dropped off a little bit, but he had a really decent end to last season, a great start to this season. But he was injured for a little bit, wasn't he? So I think that kind of laid him off a little bit. But definitely, I thought, to be honest, you would do a little bit more recruitment in January. That, I don't know if you maybe agree. I did definitely think that. But at this moment in time, I think the team is pretty solid, and I don't think you really need to improve it too much to steady away. But maybe if you just want to go at that next level, you probably need to add a few more in the summer. But yeah, for now, I think you're doing really, really good as a team.
I'm glad you say it, because I say it quite often. I think it annoys the regular viewers as well. So to have a neutral come on and say West Ham need to strengthen in January,
yeah,
it's just not wrong. That's all I'm going to say.
I was just surprised, because I just genuinely thought, like, just to solidify your place, obviously in the top 6 at least, then I just thought there would just be a little bit of added quality in there. But obviously it never happened. But you know, you just don't know at this point what happened or who you're in for or anything. But yeah, I just, at the time, I just thought that's who you were going. But never mind. That's by the by. It's over now.
to go off at a tangent a little bit, though, because in January, whenever we were linked with a player, it seemed that you were linked with the same player as well. Like Hugo Ekitike, so West Ham, Newcastle in from. As West Ham fans, we're like, well, you lot just piss off, you know, because you've got money, we don't. Will you just leave us be? Do you see it the other way, though? Or if you're linked with a player that we are you thinking, hang on, they've got European football to lure that player? Do you sort of worry to some extent that West Ham are your rivals for going after the same players?
100%, because at the time, like, we were in the relegation zone, and there was nothing aside from the project, which everyone keeps like pushing, which I understand. At the time, I was not naive. No one's going to realistically want to come to a 19th place team if the next option is a 5th place team with European football. It's just not. If football is your main sole reason for going anywhere or success, that's just not what you're going to want. So yeah, 100% from my point of view, and as well as the likes of like obviously Declan Rice and things, he is so hotly wanted by a lot of clubs. like in the Premier League, but even in Europe, he's very highly rated. He's another player that I forgot to mention even just when I was on about Jarrod Bowen there, who impress me. Like, there's a pull of players like that. Whereas really, we didn't have that at the time, in my opinion, for us at the beginning of the transfer window. So, yeah, it was definitely something that I was like, oh, West Ham, well, I'll just go to West Ham. But obviously, it didn't happen, and I don't think we were directly, bidding against you at any point. But, yeah, definitely a worry.
Anyway, let's turn our attention to the game on Saturday afternoon then. How do you see it going?
I'm not expecting anything from this game, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but you've got an advantage. You start with like a +1 goal because you've got Chris Wood in the team. He always scores against West Ham.
Does he? But do you know what? He scores, I think it's like 1 in 3 games, and he's now on his 4th game without a goal. So maybe this might be the one. I don't know. It's either a bad thing or a good thing. But yeah, I'm not expecting anything from the game, as I said. If we even come away from this game with a point, I will be over the moon, like genuinely over the moon. Obviously, maybe the result for you guys against Watford wasn't ideal. I know it was a win, so yes, you're gonna great 3 points, but a 1-0, it's not against the relegation team, doesn't look great. But yeah, I'm not expecting anything. I just think that we are going to be forcing the back foot a lot, which when we haven't used to, especially in the last few games, we haven't been used to. We've been the one that have been directing and controlling, especially an attack and play. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a change for us tactically, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to adapt to. But I think it'll be from both sides. I think it's going to be quite intense attack and pressure. So yeah, be an interesting game if anything.
Yeah, what we'll say is Moyes needs to make a big change for us. We've been putting Soufal right back as usual. He's been bang out of form. He's not had a great season, but the last few games, and in 2 of his last 3 games, he's been hooked on the hour mark or something because he's not been playing very well. Obviously, up against St. Maximum's, that's an advantage for you. And I guess the big advantage for West Ham is your injuries, mainly to Kieran Trippier as well. And then obviously Mankila went off injured, which means I assume it'll be Kraft. They'll be playing right back, which...
Yeah, it will be, yeah.
I'm not going to lie, it doesn't really worry me, him playing there.
No. It worries me. It doesn't worry you, but it worries me.
Yeah, you've got Chris Wood up front who needs crosses, needs supplied. You've only got Target doing that now. You don't really have that delivery from the right. So that's a bonus for West Ham. But anyway, last question. Any final words on the game and a score prediction, please?
So I just did a team prior to this, and I predicted a 2-2 draw. That's because I didn't want to predict us to lose, because I never do, because then I feel like it's my fault. I also don't like predicting us to win necessarily, because I look delusional, so I don't like to do that. So I've gone midway for a draw. Whether I believe it or not is a different story. But yeah, if we come away from this game, no matter what it is, if it's a 0-0, I don't care. If we come away from this game with a point away from home, I'll be over the moon. The last few games that we've played have been pretty high scoring score lines, even despite the fact that we've been quite rubbish. So they've been pretty high scoring score lines. So yeah, a 2-2 draw, that's my prediction. And if that happens, I will be buzzing.
For some reason, I fancy 1-0 West Ham. I don't know why. It's been a while since, well, I say it's been a while. We did it against Watford, but for some reason, I think we're going to see a different approach from Moyes on Saturday. I think the worst thing for Newcastle is we've conceded 2 to Leicester last Sunday. I think Moyes is going to think, I'm going to have to change something defensively here. I'm going to have to do something better. We can't keep, because we keep conceding goals. We conceded 2 against Leicester, we conceded 3 against Leeds, 3 against Southampton, 2 against Crystal Palace. We can't keep doing that. So I think Moyes is going to think, right, we're going to have to tighten up a little bit. With the greatest of respect yourselves, we're coming up against another team in the relegation zone. Clean sheet first and foremost, and then let's try and get a goal from somewhere, which will get us the 3 points. But anyway, Kendall, thank you for joining me. Massively appreciate it. You guys at home, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Do check Kendall out on Twitter as well. The link is in the description. Just click on it. Give it a follow. It takes about 3 seconds. Myself and Gonzo will be back tomorrow morning with our preview ahead of the game as well. Anyway, we'll catch you in a bit.